Hi, Angela. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you so much.
We're going to talk about your story. You're going to share with us what you've experienced, the journey that you've been through. You've dealt with some grief, some family issues, and God's grace has been there, and it's just an amazing story. Before we do that, let's talk about you. How did you and Jesus meet?
Well, you know what? I grew up in a good, strong Christian home. Grew up in beautiful Southern California. And, you know, my parents were believers that on Sunday you were in church. And so that's just how, you know, my Sunday, we were always in church. We were always involved in church. And so at a young age, around 6, you know, hearing the story of Jesus and how he wants to be your forever friend. I remember going home one morning after church, and I told my mom that I wanted Jesus to be my best friend, and I specifically remember sitting under the swing set with my dog and asking Jesus to come into my life.
And you were 6 years old.
I was 6 years old. I still remember that. Yeah, sunny California day. And you know, from there, he's taken me on quite an adventure. Have experienced things that I never thought I would experience, but through it all, he has been right there with me. But
well, let's jump into the deep into the pool.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
You're 16 years old.
Yes.
You never anticipated what would happen in your 16th year.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it was the summer of when I was 16, getting ready for my junior year of high school, and my dad was a corrections officer. He worked the graveyard shift, and so every night, you know, around 10:30, he would leave for work. And so one night, he, you know, did what he always did, left for work, and it's a warm, you know, California August day, and so he decided to ride his motorcycle to work. And about midnight, we got a call at the house that there had been an accident, and it was from the hospital, someone letting us know my dad had been involved in an accident and we needed to come to the hospital right away. They wouldn't really tell us much. So my mom and I jumped in the car and drove down to the hospital, and you know, the whole time we're thinking maybe he's got a few broken bones. If anything, maybe he's just really upset that his motorcycle might be damaged.
Right. So you're pushing the fear down.
Yes, yeah. It's okay. You know, this is fine. It's going to be okay.
Right.
We got to the hospital and a chaplain was there waiting for us and filled us in. My dad was turning onto the freeway. He had a green light, and a drunk driver ran a red light and smashed into my dad. And the force of the impact was so strong, it was so severe that it actually caused my dad's helmet to fly off.
Wow. And
so when he hit the ground, his head, just his bare head hit the ground. So when we got there, he was in a coma. He was completely unconscious, and they honestly didn't think that he would survive the night. He had what they call an eggshell fracture. Right. So it's like if you take a hard-boiled egg and you drop it on the ground, it just cracks all over, and that's what his skull looked like.
Oh my!
And you know, you're not expecting that. You know, you're never thinking your dad's gonna get in some horrible motorcycle accident. You know, and the incredible thing is my mom. Strong woman of faith. She was a little prayer warrior, and it didn't matter that it was now 12:30, maybe even 1 in the morning. My mom got on the phone and started calling friends and family and
asking them to pray with you.
Yes, yeah. She woke them up and said, "This is what's happened. This is what they have told us.
Right.
John may not survive the night.
Now.
Pray now."
Right now.
And that was huge for me to see the faith that my mom had. That, you know, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. We need to pray.
Now, are there other siblings in your family?
Yes.
Are you the oldest, youngest? Where are you?
I have an older brother.
Okay.
He's 4 years older than me.
Was he there with you at the hospital?
He was. My brother, before my dad's accident, and then along the lines, he struggled a lot with drug and alcohol abuse.
Okay.
So during this time, he was kind of in a dark spot. So when he heard that my dad had been in an accident, he did come right away.
Okay.
But so he was there for us as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, the next couple of days we kind of just waited around. We spent a lot of time at the hospital. People were in and out visiting us and praying for my dad. And for 6 weeks he was in a coma, so we were unsure of the state that he would be in. We didn't really know, what was going to happen. When he did eventually wake up, he had no recollection of who we were.
So he regained consciousness?
He did, yeah, he did regain consciousness.
Okay.
But it was almost like the accident had kind of wiped his brain. He couldn't remember how to do anything, feed himself, walk.
Was he able to communicate?
Very little communication, slurred speech, very little words.
Did he know you and your mother?
He did not know us, yeah, no. It was like he knew he was supposed to know us,
right. Right.
But he wasn't sure, that he couldn't say that you're my daughter or
right.
you're my wife.
Right.
So just going through that journey with him, he spent a lot of time in the hospital, a lot of time in ICU. Every day was go to school, go visit dad, hang out with dad. Same for my mom, go to work, go spend time with dad.
So with your brother, where he's at in his life,
yeah,
you're not going to get a lot of support from him.
Right. Yeah.
And your mom knows that. So did you feel kind of an extra burden? I need to be here for my mom.
Absolutely. Just being there for her, supporting her.
Is there a weight that descended on you at that moment?
Yeah, what do you need from me, Mom? What can I do for you?
Right.
Trying to be the perfect daughter, just whatever you need, I'm going to be here for you.
So let's move it forward a little bit.
Yeah.
How long was your father in the hospital? Did he recover? Where's he at right now?
So he was in the hospital, long time. I mean, they would move him from ICU to
right.
a regular room, and then he spent months, I'd say maybe 6 to 8 months in a rehabilitation center.
Okay.
Over time, he began to remember who we were. Yes, absolutely. And he did pick up things. Even today, my dad has, no physical disabilities. He can walk.
So he did not pass away?
He did not pass away, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's alive still today?
Yes, he's still alive.
And
he lives in a care facility
okay.
down in Southern California. Yeah, I've definitely seen progress.
So at some point, you and your mom and your brother
mm-hmm.
recognize, okay, the normal that we had before the accident is never coming back.
Right, yeah.
How did she deal with that? How did you deal with that?
Well, my mom didn't have too long to think about that. Yeah.
She didn't have long to deal with that.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, during the time that my dad was in the hospital, again, his accident happened in August. In October, my mom got really sick. Went to the doctor just to figure out what was going on, and they ran some tests and discovered that she had bladder cancer. Her entire bladder was filled with cancer. So immediately they put her into a hospital, a different hospital than my dad, and did an extensive surgery.
Okay, you're 16 years old.
Yeah.
Your brother's dealing with addictive behavior,
yeah.
drug and alcohol.
Yeah.
Your dad's in a care facility with brain trauma.
Yeah.
And now your mom's in the hospital
yeah.
with cancer.
Yeah. Actually, Christmas of that year, it was 1999, my dad was able to come home for a few hours.
Oh my.
We brought him home from the
okay.
rehabilitation center he was at, and I'll never forget that Christmas. Usually at my house, Christmas was a big deal. The house was all decorated, lights. My parents like to put, those inflatable Santas and everything in the front yard. And that Christmas was very low key. I call it my humble Christmas.
Huh.
We didn't have a tree or lights. We had a few gifts. My mom was still very weak. She just wasn't feeling well.
Right.
And to have my dad there, more than anything else, the important thing was we were together. And that was the biggest gift
so
that year.
You're actually caring for both of them during the Christmas season.
Yes, yeah.
Assisting and helping.
Right, yeah. So right after Christmas, my dad is again back at the care facility, still continuing on with rehabilitation. Again, my mom gets sick. I find her one morning in her room. She's passed out on the floor. I take her to the hospital.
That must have scared you.
Oh, one of the scariest things ever. I will never forget that. They take her back, they run some more tests.
Take your time. All of us we're kind of there with you right now. I can't imagine what this would be like. You had to grow up incredibly fast.
Yeah. But I remember sitting in the hospital waiting room, and I was by myself because, I didn't know if this was a big deal or what was going on, so I hadn't called anyone to come with me. I'm just waiting to hear what's going on with my mom.
Yeah.
Why is she sick? And the doctor came and talked to me, and I remember he sat down right next to me, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but the cancer has returned very aggressively. One of your mom's kidneys is already pretty much gone, and the cancer is starting to affect the other. And I'm sorry, but there really is nothing we can do at this point. There's no treatment, there's no surgeries we can do. Her whole insides are just filled with cancer." And so sitting there in that waiting room, he told me, we're going to give your mom about 2 months to live. And I just remember feeling my world crash.
Yes.
I remember thinking, God, what are you doing? No, you can't be doing this. My dad is not the same dad I had before, and now you're telling me that you're going to take my mom, and
you're not ready.
I'm not ready
to have them gone out of your life.
No, I need my mom. What 16-year-old girl doesn't need her mom?
Of course.
Yeah. So that was a super challenging time. The doctor, like I said, gave my mom 2 months to live, and 14 days later, she passed away.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Very aggressive cancer.
It's very aggressive. Yeah.
You're dealing with. You have to be dealing with a host of emotions at this point.
Yeah.
You haven't mentioned anything about being angry with God.
That was there.
Was
that
it?
Was there, yeah.
And fear for your future?
Oh, absolutely. I'm the type of person where I feel like we don't need to sugarcoat things with God. I feel like, God knows my heart. God knows what I'm thinking. And so when I'm frustrated, when I'm angry, I'm just going to tell that to God.
You're telling me your prayers were pretty straight.
We had some real raw conversations.
I like that. That's good.
There was a lot of, God, I don't get this at all, And you have a lot of people who will come around you, and people want to say the right things. When somebody's hurting, they want to just say that right thing. And you hear a lot of, God's not going to give you more than you can handle, and you're going to get through this, and it's going to be okay. And I completely understand why people do that. Sure. And I'm not going to be upset that somebody's going to try to say the right thing to me. But in that moment, it was more than I could handle.
Did you have anybody standing with you? Did you have a close friend, other relatives?
Absolutely, and that's one thing that I definitely want to mention is my church was my family. Other relatives, blood family, we didn't have any that lived down in California with us. They actually all lived up here in Seattle.
Oh.
And of course they would come to visit, planning the memorial service. They were all there for us. But it really was my church family that got me through this entire experience.
So what did you experience with this community of faith that banded around you? What did they say? What did they do that encouraged and gave you strength?
Yeah. The biggest thing was people were just there. They just showed up. Sometimes people will say, hey, if there's anything you need, let me know. Give me a call and let me know. And how often do we call that person and say, remember that time you told me to, But what people did for me is they didn't say, if you need something, let me know. No, they just showed up. They just came to the door like, here's a meal. Or we had people that came over and they mowed the lawn. Or, people that came and helped with laundry. Or they just showed up and I'm here and we're going to clean your house for you.
Wow. Suddenly, I'm assuming your brother is not living at the house. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So now you are the only one living in this house.
Right. Right.
You're in charge of the finances, the house payment, paying the electrical bill, keeping the house clean.
Yeah.
And you're what, a junior in high school?
A junior in high school. Yeah. I completely believe that if I would have not had that church family there for me, I don't know how I would.
What church was this?
It was called Victoria Community Church.
Okay.
And it's down in Riverside, California.
Okay.
They've changed their name now. They're the Grove.
Okay.
But yeah, just watching people gather around, it changed my life. I mean, it definitely steers the way that I live my life now. But one of the things my mom told me right before she passed is, you need to trust God. I know this is incredibly difficult for you, and I can't even imagine what life's going to look like after I'm gone, but no matter what, you need to trust that God's got it all under control. She had this consistent
message.
Yes.
Trust Jesus.
Yes.
Your dad's in a motorcycle accident.
Yes.
Trust Jesus.
Yeah.
I have cancer.
Yep.
Trust Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm going to be gone in a few days, and we don't know what
Yeah.
your future is, but trust Jesus.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
I think about the various chapters that you lived through in your life, from the time you said goodbye to your mother until now.
Yeah.
She wasn't at your wedding.
Yeah.
She wasn't there at the birth of your children.
Right.
Watching you grow up in ministry.
Yeah.
Now she is probably rejoicing.
I hope so. I hope so. Yes.
Knowing
yeah.
that God has good things for you. But
Yeah.
here on earth, she wasn't with you.
Right. Right.
Are there still holes in your soul?
Yeah.
For those chapters?
Absolutely. Some of those bigger moments, graduation,
Yeah.
not having my parents
Milestones,
in the audience.
right?
Buying a wedding dress. You should have your mom there when you buy your wedding dress.
Yes.
At my wedding, and finding out I'm pregnant, the first thing you think is, I want to tell my mom.
Right.
And those moments were tough. I would definitely say, when I moved up here to go to Northwest, that decision for me was a tough one, leaving my dad down in California.
Right.
But I knew that I needed to do something for me. I needed some fresh air, if you will,
Right.
something new, a change of scenery. And so coming to Northwest and making some incredible friendships, and then meeting this great guy who was a great friend to me, and then went on to become more than just a friend.
Right.
I think meeting DJ and then his family gathering around me and really taking me in, that was huge for me.
Yeah. They became your family.
Yeah.
Your new family. So you have God's family, and in his mercy, he's granted you another family.
Right. I mean, who doesn't want a family?
Of course.
So feeling very much alone. I mean, even though I did have my church family, I mean, you still
Sure.
feel like you need,
Sure.
more family. So for DJ to come into my life and just to love me and care for me, I remember the first time he came down to Southern California with me to meet my dad. I was terrified. I mean, just sick to my stomach.
Really?
Yeah, introducing this guy to my dad, and what is he gonna think, and what is this gonna look like, and he did so well. I mean, DJ was it was perfect. He was so kind to my dad, and gentle, and it was just amazing. I mean, it was a complete God thing. And I knew that day when we left, when we said bye to my dad and we were driving back to the airport, I knew I was going to marry him. I just knew that this was the man that God had for me. And
just waiting for him to pop the question.
Yes, and then he just took forever to do that. And no.
Well, that's another story.
Yeah.
So do you kind of feel like maybe your in-laws not being your mother and your father, but perhaps John and Dot have fulfilled part of that role?
Oh, absolutely.
They're very loving people.
Oh, they're amazing people. Yeah. And just straight from the get-go, have just, anything you need, we're your family now. We're mom and dad. We're here for you. Praying for me, and just walking along the journey with me, and, now when something exciting happens, I can call Dot.
You call her? That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And this is what happened today. And so, it was definitely
Well, she would love to get excited with you.
Yes, she would.
One last question before
Yeah.
we pray together.
Yeah.
I'd like to circle back with your brother.
Yes.
Has any of this impacted his life?
Yeah. It definitely has. After my mom passed, my brother just went to an even darker spot. He was just devastated that she was gone, because my mom was, she was his number one fan, always praying for him, always there, and he knew that.
Right.
So to have her gone was pretty devastating for him. So he just went for a while to a really dark place. And that was hard, but over time, he knew that he needed to get better, and some of that church family really rallied around him and helped him out.
Good.
And he got himself checked into Teen Challenge, and went through the entire process.
Oh my.
Got completely cleaned up, and then about 10 years ago, he got married. He met a wonderful, wonderful woman and got married, and now he leads worship at a church.
Oh my.
Yeah, down in Long Beach, California.
Oh my.
Yeah, and he's got 2 beautiful little girls. And the story that my brother has is just, it's incredible.
Yeah, that's an incredible legacy of faith.
I believe so, yeah.
How has the ability to process intense levels of grief over a short period of time impacted your role as a pastor?
I think one of the biggest things for me is because so many people just showed up for me because they were there when I needed them. That's huge for me.
Do you find yourself automatically kind of knowing what people need in grief-stricken situations?
I hope I do. When somebody close to me is going through something difficult, when they experience a loss or grief of any kind, I do what I feel like, what I think that they would want. What did I want in that moment? What did I need? And then I try to do the same.
Right.
I show up as much as I can. I try not to say, if you need me, give me a call.
Right.
But it's just, let's go, let's take them that meal, let's just pray for that, let's go over there and pray for them.
Just be there. We have people watching this conversation that we're having right now that are dealing with some intense levels of grief.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to have hope when you're surrounded by a sea of grief. They're hearing your story and looking at what you've been through. You went through the valley. You went through the darkness.
Yeah.
It didn't destroy you, but you had to go all the way through it.
Absolutely.
What would you say to them? How would you encourage them?
Yeah. I think I would say, even when it's really tough, even in those extremely dark days, you need to hold on to that hope. You need to hold on to the trust that God knows exactly what he's doing. And that really is hard. Some days it almost seems impossible to hold on to the hope that God is going to get me through this.